Welcome to Conscious Eye, living in authentic connection and harmony with self, others, and the world, featuring Ravi and Savitri.
Thanks, Savitri.
Oh, good morning, Ravi. And you just said it's been a week.
Mhm. Yeah, and I was wondering if we could kind of start today talking about some of these things that I think are really having an impact on all of us. We've got solar flares popping off. Um, the Earth's rotation is speeding up. And, there are some things going on that I think we're all kind of feeling the effects of.
Yes, the Schumann resonance, which measures the energies from the earth. I mean, some would say the heartbeat, but let's just call it the energies right now because it is graphed and it's been at the top of the graph. I might think they might have to recalibrate their measurement system if it stays there because it is very vibrant right now. We're in an amazing state of vibrancy. In some ways, it's not unusual. The solar flares actually are in the top five, but there are a couple that were a bit more in our historical records. However, we have to say that we are living in that experience now. So we're all feeling quite a bit of that. And I'm hearing from people that they're exhausted.
Hmm.
And other people are saying they're so animated they can't seem to stop and they have insomnia. And then the digestive upsets that some people are having, and the joints and the muscle aches. So,
Migraines.
migraine.
Yeah, right. Yes, the same. Yes, lots of you can experience the same. We're all experiencing the same thing, but it can manifest in many different ways in your own physical body, from
Yes.
fatigue in one person to the hyper activity in another, right?
Yeah.
Um, and so these even blood pressure, heart rate sometimes is getting impacted. And
Yes.
I've had noticed a couple instances of, waking up at night, just suddenly heart racing, um, just really, and not being able to sleep for 3 or 4 hours after that, and
Mhm.
having to just usually tune into a yoga nidra and, just try to at least get some non-sleep deep rest. So maybe not in unprecedented times. I like to point out the difference that it's not that this maybe has never happened before, but in our own experience, maybe this is the first time we're experiencing something of this level.
Right. And there are other nuances like the Schumann resonance and so forth that uh, maybe aren't part of those previous solar flare experiences. So I was just zeroing in on the coronal mass ejections, the CMEs, and how that's impacting Earth's magnetic system. And we can see that in the aurora at night. And
Mhm.
so it's a beautiful eye-scape for us when we see it. But know that that energy is coming in, and when the energy does arrive, it impacts the earth in a way that we can visually see it, but it also impacts our bodies. So let's keep that in mind and not immediately go into a state of anxiety that we're having a heart attack or a stroke or something is wrong with our muscles and joints. We might need to just wait it out a little bit and pamper ourselves so that we can begin to absorb that energy and let the body adjust as we go. Um,
Such a great reminder. This is a time, I know that there are some who really think of this time as a time of spiritual awakening, and it can be if you choose to go inward during this time, because yes, I think that was such a great, it can feel like you're stroking out or having a heart event, and it can be scary and it can create anxiety. So just using the breath, to, slow the breath. Exhaling longer than you inhale is
Yes.
a good method of really slowing down the heart, calming the body, the nervous system. It'll activate the parasympathetic nervous system. So, sometimes I inhale to the count of 4, exhale to the count of 7. Just anything that will activate your parasympathetic nervous system at this time is helpful. So taking it, slowing it down a little bit. And what you said, something else that triggered, but yeah, taking the time to go inward and meditate. We can use this time for spiritual transformation if we don't get caught up in the fear of it.
Right. And you mentioned waking up in the middle of the night, and I've been experiencing that probably for a few weeks at the almost very same time, right around 3 or 3:03 or shortly before 3. And sometimes it's just awake. And there have been a few nights, um, my dog Gori sleeps at the foot of my bed, on the bed. And there have been a few nights where I've woken up startled and I throw off the covers and she wakes up and runs around thinking there's something wrong. So we have to go through deep breathing together and come back and relax. And for meditations and other practices in balanced life, since the 1st of November, we have shifted our focus in all the practices from an inhale to the exhale because we know the inhale is going to happen. And the exhale, as you mentioned, is extremely releasing and is actually that magic section or magic point of a breath is the exhale.
Yeah. And also for our listeners. So yeah, I want to just say to our listeners, it's normal. What we're
Yes.
experiencing, the responses our bodies are experiencing are normal. So be kind and gentle with yourselves at this time. You may notice your pets acting differently.
Yes. Yes, I
Um,
agree. Mm-hmm.
Darcy is a little more restless than usual.
Mm-hmm.
Even for her, she wants to go outside all the time on the regular, but she's been just a little more, you know, she paces a bit, and so you may notice your pets reacting, in their bodies as well to this energetic influx.
Yes. And even though I did mention Gori sleeps on the bed and I startled her awake a couple of times, uh, they have shifted. My two dogs have shifted. The other dog's name is Chopin, by the way. So Gori and Chopin are have always been awake and busy and active during the day, but I've been noticing since the time change especially, they're much more nocturnal. So when I do wake up and I notice them, they are awake and sitting as if they are on guard for whatever it is that's occurring. So there's a little bit of that too that I've noticed in their behaviors that is much different. You think of cats as being nocturnal and dogs aren't. Well, they're taking on those cat-like qualities right now, which is fine. I'm really happy to have them while I'm sleeping, be awake and make sure everything's going well.
Yeah, it does seem that's a good way to put it because she seems more on guard than usual.
Hmm.
Darcy does. So yeah, we're under a lot of intense energy, and it becomes even more important for us to be able to regulate our nervous systems, our self-sensory systems, because it's very easy to get pulled into the anxiety, into the fear or the feelings, whatever feelings may be coming up in our bodies. And this idea that the world is spinning just a little bit faster. Now, I know it feels like for me anyway, the days just are not long enough to get anything done. I can remember, I know we've talked about this before,
Hmm.
but I can remember leaving work, coming home, being able to even drive out to the lake 20 minutes, go for a run, come back, make some dinner, maybe do a load of laundry or a little bit of cleaning. And now my days feel like I have no time or energy for any of that. And when I say that Earth is spinning a little faster, we're talking n- nanoseconds.
Right, right, exactly.
But
Mm,
but what's significant is how that may be affecting the atomic clock or GPS systems and our perception of our where we are and and where we are in relation to anything in this world and how we perceive time to be. So it really, I've been finding it interesting because I think it will ultimately shift how we perceive time, maybe what we consider to be important, especially as instruments that rely on time or positioning, like GPS, may be impacted. We, I think, have all been experiencing strange glitches in technology, and there's this idea, well, what happens if everything goes down?
mhm,
So there's so much going on out there. And if you look in, if you're following the news, which we're constantly bombarded of, which is full of fear and,
yeah.
the
Everything's
what
a
could
bombshell
happen.
announcement. Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
we talked about that, and I was at our last episode or one of our previous
Mhm,
episodes that everything is meant to cause an intense reaction.
mhm.
And so, take a step back if we have to carve out that time, not if you can, but be intentional about taking that step back, whether it's spending a moment in quietude or, just taking time to breathe and practice or take a bath, or whatever it is that you may be doing. Take a moment to go inward. And that can be really hard. I did a practice last night and I, just like barreling through, just like, I gotta
Mm.
do this practice. But it calmed my nervous system enough that I was able to do some tasks around the home and in a more calm state. I've been feeling a little bit of internal overwhelm, which leads to, it's like you get a little ragey. That I don't know if that's, that's just me, but it allowed me to really soothe my nervous system a little bit so that when I'm doing things like doing the dishes or I'm just able to do the dishes and not stress out about the next thing and the next thing and the next thing that I have to do or the things that aren't done. It's that remembering that be here now moment.
Yes, and my internal mantra that I've adopted in the last few days, I have time for what's important. And as I'm going through what you said, the daily tasks, doing things, and I feel like I need to hurry up quick, get this done, so the next thing, next thing, next thing. And sometimes that impedes our ability to actually get it done
Mhm.
when we're in that state of uh, tornadic mental state going on, and being able to just say some things to your inner voice, talk back to it, talk to your subconscious, to yourself, the capital S, and say, I'm safe, I'm secure, I have time, what will be able to get done, I will do, and that will be what's important. And coming into that acceptance of maybe there will be some things like you get the things out of the dryer and it's not a priority at the moment to get it all put away. Something else is, but you'll have time after for that. So reorganizing the order things are done as you flow through. Adjust our course. We heard a lot about that in change strategies. Is that you have in your mind a way of stepping through your day, and mental health says that if you have the ability to be flexible, and everybody goes, well, what is that really? Well, the bottom line to flexible is being able to adjust the course. when you see something come in, rather than it be an annoyance or a disturbance, or you go, oh no, not that, you just take a deep breath. That has become a priority. Let's get it done. The other
Mhm.
things can fall down the list a little bit, and you trust yourself that you will be able to do what needs to be done in the present moment, because that's all we have. You can fret about the future, but that doesn't do us any good. It just takes our mind off of what we're doing at the moment. So I'm a little preachy today. Sorry. That might be part of what you were talking about, feeling
No,
ragey. But yeah,
it's life changing. It's life changing. That's been a huge shift for me that I've only been able to adopt in the last few years. Like you said, I would have all the things, the list of things that I wanted to get done in the day. And even thinking, as time, the pressures of life get greater, sometimes, and this ebbs and flows as all things. Not always are we all under the same, level of pressure all the time.
hmm
Some people may be experiencing great ease and flow in their life right now.
hmm
Not me, but some people. But but what is a reminder is to be mindful in those moments, and that is exactly what I've been able to adopt a little more in my life in the last few years is just letting it go and saying, I don't have to clean the entire living room. Maybe I get my blinds done, and maybe when I get those done, I can get a few other things done as well because I've got this, this water and this to do, and the rest I can let it go. And when I take a step back after doing that and I'm like, oh, that's so much better. I feel so much better rather than putting the pressure on myself to do it all and then have that. And I think that that intense rage reaction, but I on top of that, the energy that we create in our homes is so incredibly important.
I agree.
A loved one said to me recently that she just, she's become more awakened in the last few years, having a great spiritual awakening herself. How often she was making dinner for her family with resentment in her heart at times, for how the day went, or how she was maybe an argument that happened with her husband, or maybe an argument that didn't happen, and, holding on to that feeling. I think we can all, and, go back to a time in our lives when, or in a day where, we're thinking about something that happened during the day and we're just mad while we're doing it. And that energy is being infused into your home.
And
So,
it goes out to others too. If you happen to be in a work environment or social environment, or even going to the grocery store or any other public place, if you watch, you can almost feel that coming from someone. You're like, oh, that person feels
mhm,
really angry. I think I'm going to go over here right now. So you're right.
yeah.
When you infuse that energy and you build it, build it, build it, it's carried, and it's not just within us. It definitely emerges in many different ways.
And it creates more to clear, more karma. So,
That's right.
so really the importance of if doing something with, I don't want to say, but a pure heart, a happy heart, a joyful heart, and coming to, if that means not doing the dishes right now and prioritizing yourself and taking a bath or doing a little exercise or doing a practice that makes you feel good, prioritizing that and coming back to whatever it is that needs to be done can then be done from a different vantage point and clears the path
Mhm.
rather than creating more obstacles.
Mhm.
We've talked about how when we're in a rush or our energy is all in a jumble, things tend to try to slow us down. We drop our keys, we spill the coffee, we stumble down the steps. Whereas when we are able to take a step back, when it feels like then we absolutely cannot because we are under pressure and we're under this time constraint and we have to do this. It's at those moments when we feel like we most cannot that we must. So yes, I'm being a little preachy myself, but
That's okay.
um
We need it for ourselves. And so I guess we'll just air it on our podcast and share it with others because this is where
And
we are today.
if it resonates, great, let us know. And if not, then you can, scroll on.
Oh,
Um,
let us know that too. I want to know if
well,
it
sure.
doesn't resonate.
Um, but yeah, I think that this is from just interacting with others, hearing, from others, whether it's through social media posts or conversations or just being out, like you said, at the grocery store and you can really sense and feel what's going on out there. Another interesting thing I've been noticing, and I've said this for a very long time. I knew when Saturn, when it was going into Pisces, that we were all going to be under a lot of psychological pressure. And this was
Mhm.
going to be a real intense time for all of us. Now, for some of us more than others, for those of us who have a moon in Pisces.
Right.
But the, you know, Pisces is your spiritual, psychological, subconscious, a lot of that self. And Saturn, the Lord of Karma, in that house is going to really put intense pressure on us to learn those karmic lessons in relation to those aspects of ourselves. So I said for a very long time, this is going to be a real intense time for humanity, for the collective,
Mhm.
as we are under that kind of deep psychological pressure, spiritual pressure, subconscious pressure. And if we're not working with our shadow self and we're not able to work through what comes up, it's a really hard time. And I was noticing in our local news recently how what a dramatic jump there have been in emergency first responder
Yes.
calls.
Yes.
And I hear it's interesting because, we live in a pretty small community, not, it's not a huge city. It's not LA, it's not New York. Um,
Now, our combined population, since we are considered a twin city, we have two towns together, is about 100,000. Yeah.
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 But as I sit out on my deck, or if I'm out on my deck at night doing practice, since it's been unseasonably warm, like
Mhm.
I was last night, the sounds that I hear, I've been in my home for 7 or 8 years, and it's really intense. Just the level of noise, traffic, sirens, music. I live close to a campus. It's, I just noticed that there's a significant uptick, and I think we'll feel that and hear that for a while longer as we progress. It's like anything, it's a cycle, but it's just interesting how that has come into my awareness over the last month or so, several months, as I really started to notice the time that I've been in my home that this is a bit unusual.
Mhm.
It
Yeah.
is it's noticeably different.
Yeah.
And it was interesting to see that in our local news because that pretty much validated what I've been hearing, my experience, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a lot of activity going on out there.
Mhm.
I'm perfectly comfortable staying in. There's no FOMO here. There's JOMO. I have joy of missing out. Love it.
Me too.
I'd rather be
Mhm.
practicing on my deck than finding out what's going on out there. But I understand, there's a lot of that kind of just cellular energy that has people just a little restless or a lot
Yes.
restless.
Yes. And the uptick, I think that you mentioned, there, it aggravates anxiety. And depending on what your base level is, that can be very intense. If you come generally from a very calming air baseline in the way that your mental weather is activated, then it might just be an anomaly. Something that happened, and you're feeling a little more concerned. However, there are many people that this will take them up to an arousal point where it becomes more than just concerned, and it begins to cycle in a way that may cause a need for some additional care. So if you find yourself in that state where the deep breath isn't really going anywhere for you, it's not taking you back, or it's been your mental weather has been overactive for a day, 2 days, 3 days, and it doesn't matter if you're talking to friends or family, or if you have a therapist, a coach, or a counselor, and it's not coming down, then you may want to consider reaching out to an area of help that maybe your counselor or therapist or your coach or family members who are noticing mention to you. And be safe
Yeah.
and use some insight, some self awareness. And when it gets to that point and you have that mirror in front of you, and you say, okay, I'm at this state now where I might need to talk to someone or
Need some
get some
help.
help.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so glad that you mentioned that because that was kind of sitting heavy on my mind and heart after, we did talk a little bit about how do I know if I'm detached or dissociating? How do I know if I'm really feeling and practice is so incredibly important, but it's not the cure-all for, for taking care of yourself if you need higher levels of support or
That's right.
additional areas of support. 988 is the National Suicide and Suicide and Crisis Line. So that's a resource. And here we are at a time too where we're under this intense pressure and resources are being stripped away. So
Mm-hmm.
just a reminder, 211 is another great resource. And especially for those of our friends in helping professions, you
Yes,
remember that you may need help too.
that's
And remember to take care of yourselves because I know a lot of friends of our pod are in those helping professions and are really working under a lot more pressure than before because of where we are
right.
in our society right now. So we take care of each other, take care of yourselves, ask for help, get the help. Everybody deserves help. Everybody deserves to be able to step back and be cared for and nurtured. It's our responsibility to do that for ourselves, but it's okay to get that from others as well. So I'm so glad that you mentioned that.
Yes, and I'm glad that you reinforced it with some real world options that, especially the phone numbers. What were those again?
So 988 is the National Suicide and Crisis Line. And 211, I don't know, oh, is that national? I know in our local area, you can call 211 and they have a database of resources from everything from food assistance, pet food assistance. I know a lot of people not only may be struggling to feed themselves, but their pets as well. Or things, I know fans in the summertime. Things, just resource availability in your local area. 211 is a
Mhm.
good one for that, or counseling referral, resources. Um, and then I know, I think it's psychology.com. You can find a pretty robust list of counselors and psychologists in your local area. You can search by zip code. Um, so those are a few that come to mind.
Great. Yeah. Well, I appreciate this uh, spontaneous dialogue that we're having, much needed at this time.
Yeah, it wasn't on our topic list for the day, but uh, that's what intuition is about.
Right.
Is, following what feels right. And this felt like well, it just came up. So it feels like a conversation that we needed to have.
Yeah.
So I'm grateful for my intuitive friend Savitri, who can just flow with whatever comes out of me. I'm always, every time we meet, I'm like, well, I'm overwhelmed and ragey, so let's address that first.
Yeah. So please comment. We respond to the comments and we bring them back to an episode so everyone can participate. So please comment, like, share, ring the bell, and subscribe. Again, no cost to subscribe. It's just an availability so that we're on your radar when things come up.
Yeah.
Um,
And if you have something longer that you want to say, you can email us at conscious eyes, EYES 108 at gmail.com.
yeah, thank you, everyone.
Yeah.
Have a
Satnam.